had a busy weekend. Us Victorians had a nice weekend near Bendigo, which is really lovely. Nice terrain, nice new terrain.
Into your URL.
All right, so thanks for joining, everyone. We're just looking ahead to the Sydney Sprint weekend, which is in 2 weekends' time. Probably most importantly is that the entries closed tonight. I think Mark will probably give us more information, but if you haven't entered, please get onto that, when you jump off the Zoom. So some housekeeping stuff from Frederick and Brodie and I guess we would like to remind people that nominations for JWOC WOC World Cup 1, 2, Bush Rangers and probably World Cup 3 are all open. And we have put March the 19th as the closing date for most of those things. But if you know in advance, or if you know now that you're interested, please put them in early if you can. It just sort of, I guess, helps selectors to start thinking about selection processes. So if you know now that what events you want to go to, pop your selection or your nomination in now. We're also thinking at the World Cup selection date that we've put on the Orienteering Australia site is perhaps a little bit too late, and most of you will want to plan a bit before the 1st of May. So if you're keen on World Cup 2, and we will put out an official document with the date changed, if you're keen to go to World Cup 2 or you're interested, please get that nomination in with the others, just to give everyone a bit of time to plan their trips. Bush Rangers, Frederick's going to send out an official document with some details on that, because we're having a Australia New Zealand challenge on the King's birthday weekend, which is I don't know the exact date in June, but it's in sort of mid-June. And we're calling for nominations for that. So perhaps if you're not thinking of going to Europe, or even if you are, this might be a good event for you to nominate for. And we're looking to take 6 senior men and women and 6 junior men and women. So get your nominations in for that as well. Just a couple of other things. Just for those who went away last year, just a quick little note that there's still a few uniform payments owing, and I might sort of track down a few people and catch up with those. Anything else sort of in the housekeeping, Frederick, Brodie, that you can think of?
No, I think that's it. I think you covered everything.
I think that's
I've posted on the OA website about the Bush Rangers. So there's
okay, fantastic.
There. Yeah.
So that would definitely be a fun weekend. New Zealand's always fun. They have, great terrain and it's not too far away. And also we heard that New Zealand have cancelled their nationals that they have at Easter, and they're actually postponed it to late October. So we potentially might look at making that another challenge race against the Kiwis. So just perhaps put that one in your calendar as a possible event to go to later in the year. So again, entries closed for Sydney tonight. There's a social event that Brodie and Anna have organised, so get behind that, and you can enter that, or enter, but no payment on Eventer as well, just so that we know numbers.
I'll just add in there, Tasha. I was going to add it when Mark was talking, but I might as well say it now. If you are going to come, please enter. I think I changed the entries to next weekend so that I can let the venue know. But if you don't enter, we don't really want you just to rock up. So if you forget to enter, you need to let me know. Don't forget to enter is the key, and just make a decision now. It would be good.
Okay, good. That sounds like fun anyway. So get onto that. Just a quick NOL reminder, make sure you wear your proper state uniform, and if you don't have a proper one, contact your state coordinator. Race 1 is world ranking, and Mark may remind us, but I think the IOF ID now is happens automatic. You don't have to email it separately. So as long as it's on your event or login thing, it'll happen automatically. And if you don't have one, we think the process is you make a login in the IOF Eventor page, and that automatically gives you one. Anyway, I might hand over to Mark just to talk us through some of the bulletin points, and if anyone's got any sort of questions, we'll hand over to Mark.
All right, thank you. Spent this weekend visiting all 4 venues and meeting the various teams. So things are coming on quite well. There's still a bit to be done, but I'm sure in the next 2 weeks it will all come together for an action-packed weekend. So on the Saturday, got an individual in the morning at University of Sydney, mixed sprint relay in the afternoon at University of New South Wales, and on Sunday, knockout sprint, qualifier and quarterfinal at St Gregory's, semi-final and final at Western Sydney Uni and Macarthur campus. Where possible, we try to follow the IOF format just to prepare everyone for WOC next year. So just to quickly run through each of the venues. So University of Sydney, just thinking back, it was last used for a NOL mixed sprint relay in 2015. So some of you may have run there, but looking at the names may not be the case. More recently, Ali set the New South Wales Sprint Champs in 2019. So that's probably the last big event that's been held there. It's a typical sandstone uni campus. It's got the iconic photographs of the quad and the big sandstone buildings. We are lucky, at a vast expense, unfortunately, to be able to finish on the lawns outside of the Great Hall. So it's a really iconic sort of look and feel, as it is a world ranking event, so we thought we'll splash out on that. I'm not quite sure what it does for the finances, but there we are. Starts are from 10 o'clock and they're in reversed IOF ranking order. So there's a quarantine. All the elites must go to the quarantine, not the event arena. So you need to be in quarantine by 9:45. You'll be called out. I think you're allowed to warm up in the park nearby, but then you get released from quarantine 6 minutes before you start, and you go down through the process, the start process. In the afternoon, we go to University of New South Wales. That was used the same weekend in 2015 for the individual. I think we have had the New South Wales Sprint Champs there at some stage. Been a couple of minor events, but it hasn't been used for a few years. So it'd be a good challenge because there's been quite a lot of building work. I'm aware of a few of the elites doing some training last year before it was quarantined, so I think it's changed since then. It's a newer campus than University of Sydney, but it's on a slope and there's lots of steps, so that could keep you fit and healthy. First legs go off at 3 o'clock. Need to be in quarantine by 2:45, and then you'll be released in waves, depending on which leg you're doing, to the pen. If you haven't entered the mixed sprint, or if you don't want to enter the mixed sprint relay, or you're not selected for a team, then you can run your normal M21, M20, W21, W20 class, but it doesn't count for NOL points. I think some states are overrepresented, so there may be some mixed teams just so as many people as possible do get a run. So that's pretty much it for Saturday. Obviously, a lot of you will head off to the social in the Rocks. Don't drink too much because it's an early start on Sunday. Out of St Gregory's, which is Campbelltown, so it's the wilds of southwest Sydney, about a 50-kilometre drive in the centre, but it's all on freeways. Being Sydney, they're not free, so you'll be basically your credit card will take a bit of a hit. Qualifiers start from 8:30. There is no quarantine for this. There's a warm-up area, but obviously you need to be there in plenty of time and you're warmed up. Bit of a break then while the public run. Then the quarterfinals are from 10:30. 6 heats of 6 runners for both genders. We do now have over 36 in both the men's and the females. So the qualifiers will count because some people will get knocked out because only 36 get through to the quarterfinal from the qualifier. I think this has only been used once, which was day 5 of the Christmas 5 days in 2021. It's a pretty hot day. What is it there? It's a smallish school and it's quite an undulating campus. So don't be deceived by the size of it because, yeah, quite small but tight, compact running, few hills. No quarantine for the qualifier, but there is a quarantine for the quarterfinal, which you need to be in by 10:15 for the first quarterfinal heat at 10:30. Should be wrapped up there by 11:15, 11:30. You're probably going to have a 3-hour break then until the next event. So nearby, there's the Australian Botanical Gardens at Mount Annan. Nice cafe there, some nice shady trees, good place to relax and just have a break as long as it's not too hot out west. So we finish up at Western Sydney Uni Macarthur campus for the semi-final and final. It's probably one of the newer uni campuses in Sydney. It was used for New South Wales Sprint Champs in torrential rain in 2021. I think the drive out there was perhaps one of the most exciting drives we've ever had. And again, and QB3 in 2019. So most venues have been used at least once beforehand. So the existing maps are on Eventor, so it's obviously worthwhile having a look at those. Semi-finals, first one's at 2:30. You're asked to be in quarantine by 2:30. It's a big grassy area. You'll be called up about 4 minutes beforehand, but I think given the size of the quarantine, it's really your responsibility to be ready to lead quarantine at your -4 minutes mark. Once you've done your semi-final, it's for a bit of fun for the public. The top 6 in each class are doing a head-to-head, so maybe worth having a watch of that just to see how they all get on. Should be some interesting racing. And then it follows punching starts for the public. So if you didn't make the quarterfinal or the semi-final, you're automatically entered into these public races. So come along and have a run. Then we get to the pointy end of the business. So the finals start at 4:25. We're having a C final, a B final, and A final. That way it makes it nice and easy to get your NOL points. We culminate in the women's A final at 4:50 and the men's A final at 5 o'clock. Prize giving is at 5:15. So hopefully if any of you are flying out that night, it gives you time to get to the airport. If you're not flying out and you're lucky to have a public holiday on the Monday, do hang around and enter the Sydney Sprint Weekend Epilogue, which is being held on George's Heights, which has great views over the Sydney Harbour. So if it's a day like today, it'll be spectacular little race. As mentioned before, it could be particularly hot out west. On Saturday, although we're a bit closer to the ocean, there's no shade. So I think you'll be okay in quarantine, but once you finish your race, just got to be careful. There's no shade. As Tash mentioned, normal entries close 11:59 tonight. If you miss that and want to pay a bit more, you have until Thursday night to enter. Just looking at the numbers about half an hour ago. So for the first couple of events, we've got about 94, 95 people, and we've got 88 entered for the mixed sprint relay so far. So it's a good turnout. I'm sure a few more people will enter between now and midnight, then between midnight and Thursday. But yeah, do come along. It should be a great weekend. That's it from me.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. I've got
any questions?
Well, I've just got one about because I asked you earlier about the Sunday, what happens if you don't make the cut for the afternoon? So everyone who's sort of entered in the knockout is automatically going to get a run in the afternoon, how do they? Is it just a flexible start time, or
It's a punching start, basically. We have the head-to-head, then all the public have a punching start between about 3:20 and 4 o'clock. We're keen to get people out quickly because they need to set up for the final and everything. So yeah,
okay,
there'll be a course 1 and course 2. So we made sure if you want to get a run, you get a run on a normal sort of 12 to 15 minute winning time type course. Yeah,
and is there anything like, you know, multi-levels, you know, using the new symbol or something that you?
You'll find out when you read Bulletin 2. It's always worthwhile being aware of the multi-level symbols.
Yep.
I think, as we all know, if we went to WOC or competed in WOC, the elite or the WOC competitors avoided some of the multi-level stuff, whereas us punters got thrown into it. So I think they tend to make things less complex for elites to try to avoid any issues and to make it fairer. But just make sure you know the symbols. If you've got those little triangles, what they mean, the cross hatching, whether it be white on grey, white on brown, whatever, just make sure you're across those. Can't give too much away, but yeah.
No, that's a very good reminder. So when we look at the old maps, we have to remember that those new symbols most likely, or, you know, perhaps not on those maps. So just be aware of that and have a look at a new map that's got the current symbols on it, just to remind yourself what they look like.
There was a lot of discussion about what should be mapped and what shouldn't be mapped. So hopefully, I think they've got a happy medium between making it too easy but making it overcomplicated.
Yeah, good. Sounds fun. All right, well, thank you, Mark. Has anyone got any questions for Mark before I might get Ali, to being a local Sydney resident, to maybe give us a little bit of a rundown on the 4 areas quickly, if he's got anything that he can add. But does anyone have any questions for Mark about sort of the weekend, the logistics? And no? All right, if you think of something, pop it in the chat. But Ali, do you want to?
I just quickly, I had uploaded the guidelines for that from the IOF mapping regarding the new polka dot sort of symbols, and there's quite a few examples in that document if you want to have a look at that.
No, thanks, Frederick. All right, Ali, did you want to give us a rundown? Did you want to share your screen, or did you want me to put the old maps up, or what would you like? What can't you?
All
right. Can you hear me?
Can hear you. Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. We're good. So we're going through a different system. All right. I'll just screen.
So you guys, I mean, I know you guys are in the same house, so but there's a lot of feedback. So maybe turn one of the sounds. Yeah, there we go.
Is your sound okay? All right. So can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. So I'll put this in the chat, or Aston can. So we're just looking at the maps in order. Rob did a good YouTube video of the sprint champs, New South Wales sprint champs, which is here. So it's good to it's a good familiarization of the area. There's also Google Street View throughout the whole thing, so you can just walk around essentially. Let me find. So this is the actual course, the full course. Sydney Uni it's quite tricky, but it's not the most tricky campus. It's just a sort of standard campus with a few little tricks that is easy to just geek ahead of time, and you'll be well aware of it. What could be tricky is if they put impassable barriers to make the route choice a bit more interesting. But that being said, these roads through here are actually public roads, I think, or people use them to drive through. So they won't be able to close off. They'll have to be a bit careful with what they close off. So we might see a few impassable barriers, but we'll have to wait and see. In terms of sort of like the technical bits. The pin on Eventor, can people see my cursor? Yeah.
Yep.
The pin's up here. So, which is this building here is this beautiful old like sandstone building. It's like what all the photos and stuff of Sydney Uni are. So that'd be a pretty cool, and you can look over to the city. So it'd be a pretty cool arena.
So that's where that's really that's
we
where
don't know anything about how far away the starts are, but
yeah, that's where the arena event centre is.
I'd say.
I
So
heard
there's this section, then there's sections further down here, and there's a bit of section over here. But the main section is this part. And my sister, Becky, Rebecca George, she's on the chat. She mapped this area. Well, she updated the area and she added a section. So, and no one's seen that section before. So I don't know if they're going to use it or not, but there will be another section somewhere. And I don't even know whereabouts it's going to be. In terms of like tricky parts of the map, I might grab the full map file. Sorry, 1 second. That one. Oh no, it's not on event. Where is it? No, that's 1 second. Sorry, I should have downloaded it. Yeah.
And Mark did just cut in and try to say before that building that you're pointing at, Ali, is that fancy building you was talking about for the arena, I think.
Sorry, what was that, Tash?
Mark sort of said before while you're talking that where you're talking about with your cursor being the potential, the arena area that was, I think, with that.
That is the arena. Okay.
That's correct. Yes, with the pins dropped on the arena.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that'd be nice. Okay. So we're definitely going to be using this section. Whether we use the other side of the oval there'll be a bit more transport legs, so they might not want to. And then this section's also pretty good. But you do have to run across this bridge. So we might have a remote start, I don't know. But if you go back across this bridge twice, it adds quite a bit of distance to the course. In terms of tricky parts, we'll start over here. This tunnel here is not tricky, but it's a graffiti tunnel. It's a bit iconic. So if you're running down it and there's people spraying graffiti and stuff, that's what it is. This section over here always catches people. So you can't get in there, and it's a classic, like they have a leg from here or something to there, and you've either got to go around this way or around the other way. Then there's a bit of like multi-level stuff going on here, which is quite hard to understand with the old spec, but that will be different, I presume, with the new spec. Then this is also a bit funky. I actually don't know what's going on with the map over here. It's all these little alleyways are quite small, so it's a little tricky area. But then you generally just get sort of nice little route choice legs, or medium-sized route choice legs, like 8 to 9, where there might be a few different ways to go. And like going down the graffiti tunnel has a lot of stairs. Do you swing down along the road and go all the way around the outside, or do you go down this way? Yeah, and there's quite a good route choice legs, but the actual technicality of it's actually not too bad. Yeah, the other really tricky part which gets a lot of people is this section, and it's specifically the bridge. The way it's mapped on this is actually quite bad. So I don't know if it's been updated or not, so we'll find that out. But you can actually, there's this level here is almost like a third level, like halfway between the stair level and this level. And then the oval area down here is another level down. So you can quite easily find yourself going along here and go, shit, I need to be another story down, and there's no way to get out. You can't actually, well, you can, so you can come all the way down the stairs and then hook a U-turn and go out like that and out onto the road. You can in real life, but technically that's illegal to do because you're going through an underpass. I don't know. Andrew Lumsden was all over it for the sprint champs that you couldn't do that. So there's a bit going on there. So if you're going through there, I'd recommend to be careful. The rest of it's pretty standard, to be honest. There's a few impassable, like longer impassable barriers. Hopefully they didn't use the park. Yeah. Which underground section?
All right.
Hold on, I'm just gonna point something. Oh yeah, and this, sorry, yeah, this is another good section. This would definitely have multi-level stuff. So it's where Rob starts in the video. And there's a bridge going over. So this is actually the upper level, but there's also a bottom level, which pops out underneath this bridge, I believe. Can't remember it too much. So you might have a route choice where you go from here to here, and you can go across the bridge, or around that way, or you can come from the bottom level perhaps. So it's something to watch out for. But yeah, it'll be hopefully better with the new spec, depending how good a job Becky does. I'm sure she did a great job.
No pressure.
Right.
So we'll look at UNSW now. Let me find it. So UNSW is quite different, as Mark said. It's a much more modern campus, and it's probably one of the most technical. Well, it's definitely our hardest sprint map in New South Wales, but it's up there with the best in Australia. Yeah, there's just a lot of buildings, as you can see, but there's a lot of funky stuff going on. Like this section here is this underground tunnel. There's the climb is actually quite significant. So you find yourself getting quite tired because of hills. This staircase here is like super steep. And it becomes quite a route choice challenge. A lot of it, because you're making quite big route choice, whether you're going up the hill, staying down. And you got to factor in staircases because they're really quite slow on this map. In terms of specifically, the start is down here somewhere from memory, or not the start, the arena, which means they could start us anywhere, maybe on this lower section. I don't know if they're going to do remote starts. Yeah, in terms of more tricky sections, there's some multi-level stuff going on here. It's quite hard to understand what you can go past. So some of these have like almost balconies which you can run along and get down. It's very unclear from the map what you're allowed to do. So I don't know if they're updating it or not for the new spec. Hopefully they are, because it's quite tricky to understand. It's just really one of those things you just got to sort of just play it by ear. Try and take a simple route if you can. Specifically, this bit here is quite tricky. You get down into a lower underground. This is like a food court down the bottom here for the uni students, and you can pop out there. You can get out onto the upper level from here. But you find on this map, it's one of those maps where you find yourself running along like little corridors and stuff. And you don't really know if you're meant, I think through here is this tiny little, you go through doors almost. And then this all feels a lot smaller than it really looks on the map. And it's quite tricky and tight. And then it's just really good technical orienteering, sprint orienteering, which is quite unique to our campus orienteering. There's a few bigger traps you can get caught in. But a lot of it, like this buildings like this, but a lot of it's really going to be down to the fine detail and execution of a leg. There's always the option to just head out to the road and just burn up it or down it. It's often a viable route choice because there's no stairs and you can run as fast as you like. Yeah, so those are the two unis. They're quite different. And if you haven't run on them, they're going to be a really good challenge, I think. All right, so we'll find, we'll go in order, not that one. So, okay, so this is the first knockout one. And we ran it at the Christmas 5 days a year ago, I believe, or 2 years. This is a really small scale. So be careful. This is 1 to 2,000. So it's actually quite a small area. We ran a full sprint here, which got a bit tedious. We were sort of going around the same stuff and you learn it quite quickly. But it's quite disorientating once you sort of get tired, especially. There's lots going on with like the staircases. There's good route choice possibilities. So especially with the knockout, it's going to be quite interesting route choice. And I think it's going to make a good sort of spectacle map because we actually use this swimming pool area, which has some nice route choice. It looks quite boring out here, but because it's 1 to 2,000, you're moving very quickly on the map. So everything comes up super quickly. This sort of rough open, it's an agriculture school. So they've got farming stuff out here. So I remember being quite sort of, you go from running just a normal campus sort of style stuff to this really rough ground, kind of like Oz Champs, where you're just like running through paddock sort of and jumping fences. And it's quite rough behind these buildings. So that's something to factor in, especially with shoe choice. There's not too much else to say about this map other than the sort of general sprint stuff, which is just, yeah, there's some bigger impassable barriers over here to be careful of. They might, or probably will update the map a little bit. I think it's going to be 1 to 3,000. Mark, correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, so it will be zoomed out. So they probably will need to update it. Yeah, there's probably not much else to say about that one. And then WSU. Another campus out west. It's not as good as the other ones, but it's still pretty good. It gets pretty disorientating and tricky in sections. And again, like UNSW, you find yourself running along like small corridors sometimes. This stuff in here is little boardwalks and it's actually quite slow running, which is quite surprising. You find yourself having to really slow down, especially so when we ran here last time, it was torrential rain and we were slipping all over the shop and the lakes were flooding. So hopefully that doesn't happen. In terms of tricky sort of sections, I'd say there's sort of this long building here actually poses quite a good route choice, especially in a knockout sprint, I think, because the winning times are going to be shorter. So you'll only go over this stuff probably once. It gets a bit repetitive on a longer sprint because I think this is, 1 to 3,000. So you end up going around this quite a lot. But when you're just going across this once, you won't have time to learn the map. And there's lots of little sort of tricks with this map. So this one's definitely worth a geek because you can get through here. There's impassable barriers, like you don't want to get caught up there. There's even a bit of multi-level stuff. Not sure if it's quite small. And you've got to worry about levels down here. End up being on quite a high level. So this building poses quite good route choice. And then through here is quite technical. But then apart from that, it's just sort of the same sort of stuff. It's quite tight. If that, in terms of shoe wear, that's quite important. And then you do get some open fields, but hopefully they don't use those. Yeah, apart from that, does anyone have any specific questions about the maps, parts they want clarifying, or yeah? No.
Nah,
All
any
good?
questions for Ali? That was fantastic, Ali.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, that was really good. Just a nice little introduction to all those, and that's actually good to know that Rob Bennett's done a YouTube.
Yeah, is that in the chat now?
It is in the chat. Yeah, I presume we can just, Google look that up.
He actually talks over the top of it as well. It's quite interesting.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. All right. So that's some good geeking to do for everyone. Another thing I was going to do tonight, but Bridget was unable to make it tonight. I was going to ask her to give a little quick rundown of her sprint procedure when she, just that immediate at the start, when, what she does immediately before and what she does when she picks up a map, because I've started, behind her, or even we must have done, mass starts a few times, and I'm always just amazed at how quickly she can actually get on the map and, and get going. So we'll have to save that for another Zoom to ask Bridget. But I just thought maybe if anyone wants to volunteer, just a little short thing to sort of finish off with, I guess, just what they do, maybe in the couple of minutes beforehand, and, the first 10 seconds. And I mean, I just quickly thought about it, and just the few things that, that I've always tried to do. So everyone will be slightly different, but things like, when possible, when there's no quarantine, make sure you check the finish area as much as you can. But, you can't when quarantining, but if you can, do that. When you're close to the start, check where north is, have a good look around, what can you see in front of you? If possible, know which way you're going to have to flip the map when you turn it up, and you can, quite often there's, you can sort of see where the heading is or whatever without, looking too much. So just know, just a little thing so you're already there. And then know, if you can, according to where the arena is in the area, know roughly where you're looking for the start triangle. So when you turn it over, you don't spend time, like I quite often do, like just looking around the map trying to find the start triangle. So have a good idea of where it's going to be positioned when you turn the map over. And they're just little tiny things that can just help a little bit. And then picking up the map, looking forward, and getting that very first contact, actually getting contact with something that you're looking at and the map, and then getting started. But somebody want to jump in, just give me a snippet of what they do when they pick the map up? Bruce, you've been sprint orienteering for a long time, and you are particularly good at it. You got any sort of tips, what you do, what you look for? If he's there. Or anyone else? Be brave. Aston, did you just put your hand up? Did I see you just go like that? All right, go on. Well, Bruce might come back and...
I didn't put my...
We've got the echoey, yeah.
I didn't put my hand up. I was scratching my nose, but I can...
Well, careful when you do that at auctions, you end up in trouble.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, sprint like at the start. I guess it's. We're talking about right at the start, just before you pick up the map. Obviously, you have to know which way north is. So, first thing I do is, hopefully before I pick up my map, find out which way north is. So then, as soon as I pick up my map, I rotate it to north. So I find the north lines or the top of the map, or whatever, and rotate it to where my compass pointed before. And then the next thing I do is find the start triangle. I mean, that's I'd say that's common. And then find the first control and try and plan a route to the first control. Haven't got haven't got anything too exciting to say on that.
So you're saying it's sort of an automatic process that you haven't.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But are you looking up before you look at your
Yeah,
map?
yeah. I guess that's another point. I guess to do it sort of subconsciously. Like if you're starting on an oval, when you flip the map, it doesn't hurt to, your eyes get drawn to the big yellow circle. It might be where the start triangle is, like something like that. Or if you know where you are, like if you've done some geeking and you know where you are at the start, like you know which area of the map you are, which we can probably, if you do some geeking, you can probably have a pretty decent guess for these sprint champs coming up, since there's old maps already. Then that doesn't help to know, not to have memorized exactly where each alleyway goes and stuff, because they might have changed the map or there might be a fake fence, but at least know what challenge is in front of you. Like potentially, if you know that there's this double level section really close to the start, know in the back of your mind that, okay, just read my map, just check it one more time in case there is some double level trick or something like that.
Yep.
Sorry, got no golden nuggets.
No, I was just thinking more. Yeah, well, that's of course, and you obviously, whatever you do works. So I was just thinking more like when you pick up the map and you'll see the leg, and then you're looking. I know you tend to look up, especially in the forest. You're looking up, seeing what you can see, and then referring back to. Do you do that in sprint as well, or is it more just for forest, that technique where you sort of?
Yeah, I mean, in sprint, you don't have time to do any of that, and you get punished if you don't know exactly where you're going ahead of time. So you have to be well ahead reading the map, so you know your routes and exits and all that stuff ahead of time. If you find yourself sort of checking where you have been in the past, you'll probably end up not having the best result on that sprint race.
Yeah, true. Anyone else got anything that they'd like to add? Don't just anything before we sort of finish up. I think we don't know whether Bruce is back. No. All right. What about you there, Caitlin? You've done a few big sprints now. Have you got any tips? And Em sitting next to Caitlin. And you guys have run sprint at WOC. What can you tell us? Any sort of tips for perhaps anyone, the younger ones that are on? Anything you guys do just before you pick up the map? Or do you take control one a little bit easier so that you sort of get into the flow of it?
I kind of, well, it depends, like, if the start shoot, like you have a distance to the start triangle.
Yeah.
Like, I guess it depends how far away that is. Like if you've got a good 100 meters, then I'll start off hard and I'll be able to find where I am by that time, I assume. But if it's right there, then I'll probably jog out of the start, I guess. So the start, and just getting in the zone beforehand. I don't know. I have a little routine that I do in the start box so that I don't know, I start my watch like 15 seconds before the start and I do little leg flick things. No leg spins. Not superstitious.
Superstitious thing.
Yeah.
Em?
Bridget's drilled plan and bang into us, so plan and then go.
Yeah.
Fast when you know where you're going.
Yeah.
And I guess like if I can look ahead, identifying where I can open up a bit has probably been the thing that's changed a bit. It's like I used to sort of not be able to get ahead of myself, and now if I can, like I work out where I can run fast.
Yeah. Okay. So if you can see in the distance where you're going, you just put the foot down.
Yeah, because I just think that if I use that time to like as I get closer to that bit where it's tricky, I'll like slow down again and read my map. But I don't really like using a whole long leg because I know I can read in a short period of time because you're doing it the whole time through techie. So you might as well just use that time to just get some running done as opposed to like reading the whole time, because you can get ahead a bit, but I think you can get more out of running fast in the opening
Yeah.
bits. And I think Sydney Uni could be good for that, but UNSW seems it's a lot trickier, and you get tired because the hill's quite go up and down it a few times.
Okay,
Stairs.
Those stairs look really nasty, so that's going to put everyone in a bit of oxygen debt. So there could be some mistakes made. So actually, has anyone got any stair tips? Because obviously, well, I can't because I'm too old, and if I fall, I'm going to break. But yeah, you
Run up them.
can't look at your
And
map.
down. Don't
Yeah,
read your
down,
map
down,
while
down.
you're doing it.
So do people have a good look before they enter the stairs, or do you wait until you're at the bottom, or is there any?
You can't read the map when you're running up or downstairs, really.
No,
So
I
it's-
know.
You got to know before you get to the stairs whether you're turning, left, right,
Okay.
whatever, before you get to the top or the bottom of the stairs.
Yeah.
Before you go up or down.
So you actually know before you enter the stairs what you're doing at the end of the stairs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the goal. You can't. It's not always like that, but if you can, then try and do it.
Yeah. Good tip. Alrighty. Has anyone else got anything they want to add? I think it's we've gone through sort of everything, and it's going to be really good to see everyone. And make sure if you haven't entered, make sure you enter. Don't forget the nomination stuff we've talked about. If you want to nominate for something, or if you're unsure, just contact one of us. But we would appreciate if you are thinking about it and you sort of know now, get your nominations in. And World Cup 2, we're going to bring the date forward a bit just so that it gives people time to plan. Okay. Brodie or Frederick, anything else you can think of before we go?
No,
No.
all good. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I hope everyone had a good weekend, and we'll see you in Sydney. Thanks, Mark, and thanks, Ali.